Perfectionism is an attempt to control your environment so that you can predict what's going to happen. What is just right for me is different than what is just right for you. And what is beautiful for me is different for what's beautiful for you. And what's life changing for me is different. So it's a moving target. It's a never ending story. Hey, you, Brooke Jean here with Brooke Jean Unperfected. I'm a licensed professional counselor, coach, mama, and your keep it real guide to the freedom that's available to you in a life unperfected. If you're a high achieving, perfectionistic, often anxious woman feeling stuck, frozen, and maybe even downright frustrated, you're in the right place. If you're anything like me, you've done everything society told you to do that would promise you success. You've got the job, you've got the husband, you've got the car, you've got the vacations, you've got the 401k, and yet underneath it all, when you're really honest with yourself, you're deeply disconnected and unfulfilled. Here is where we talk about letting go of who you think you're supposed to be so that you can get busy creating a life that you actually love. Everything healing, revealing, and rising is on the table. And we don't hold anything back around here. So buckle up, babe, because you are entering a vortex of your most juicy transformation. One where we dethrone perfectionism so you can access more energy, creativity, and vitality. I am so happy and grateful that you are here. Hey, you, welcome back to the Unperfected Pod. I'm Brooke Jean, your host, and I'm so freaking happy and grateful that you are here. It is Sunday night after what was a beautiful, sunny, warm weekend. And let me just tell you that seasonal affective disorder is a very real thing. If you're like me, you don't even realize how prevalent the depression is until you have a day that you feel quote unquote normal. And I'm, of course, using quotes with that, right? I never know that it's as bad as it is until all of a sudden we're in the deep depths of winter. It's been windy, it's been cold, it's been gray. My daughter was off school all week and at the end of February. That's not necessary, but okay. And all of a sudden the sun comes back out. And it's almost like every cell wakes up and becomes more vibrant. It's almost like senses become awakened. Like I'm telling you today, I was like, I smell things again. I feel things again. And oh my God, there's Brooke. There she is. There's her personality. And I thought I was actually doing okay. But I tell you, when that sun comes out, baby, I am like a whole new person. So we spent the weekend outside. It was beautiful. I had a little date night with my husband Saturday night. Camden played a gig in Denver. I met up with some girlfriends for that. And today I got to work a little bit this afternoon, and I am just feeling very nourished because of that sun, because of the family time and all the things. And so now I'm feeling motivated to get on here and riff about something that is coming up in my life and in my clients' lives. You guys know when things show up as themes, I know that it's time to talk about it. And so this thing that is showing up is that so many really smart, intelligent, capable, magnetic, charismatic, successful women are not where they desire to be because they are paralyzed by perfection. They don't launch that product. They don't launch the podcast. They don't finish the blog. They don't show up on Instagram. They don't ask for the promotion. They don't speak up in the board meeting. They don't say what they want in their marriage because they are literally paralyzed by perfectionism. And we find ourselves stuck, unable to take action because we're so afraid of what? Dun, dun, dun. Getting it wrong. Okay, raise your hand if this is relevant for you. You didn't hit send on that email. You stayed up late to edit something. You just haven't completed the book proposal. You haven't done all the things because you're afraid of getting it wrong. And so you sit and you edit and you overanalyze and you spin on this hamster wheel, just further perpetuating your anxiety, making you feel even more cemented in the ground, unable to move, because you're waiting for this proverbial moment when you feel like it's going to be just right. And newsflash, that is never going to happen. You are never going to feel fully ready. You're never going to feel the most prepared. It's never going to be your best work, and it's never going to be perfect. And that is okay. But it sometimes you can literally be so paralyzed by perfectionism that you're in a cognitive freeze, a nervous system shutdown, and you cannot take a baby step. You cannot see the forest through the trees. And so you either quit before you hit your goal, you give up before you've hit the goal, or you start over, and we wonder why we're drained of our energy, why we're feeling like our creativity is diminishing by the second, and why you might even be on the brink of burnout, right? It's because you're spending all this energy trying to get it just right instead of just getting it out. Okay. So, what I want to let you know is that while I am a perfectionist in recovery, I still struggle with a lot of the same things that you do. But where this really hit me hard was with my attempt to create an online course. So we work with people in person. I run groups. I run a mastermind. We do retreats. We do a lot of beautiful in-person stuff. But I really wanted to put some of my teachings, the themes that every day I hear myself coaching women on. I wanted to put them into a program, and I wanted to sell it online. So that way somebody could find me on social media, come to the podcast, buy the program, and get more of the skills, more of the energy, more of the teachings. And then when they're ready, they can pull the trigger on the mastermind or the one-to-one or whatever it is. And when I tell you, honey, that I overthought this online course thing for probably 3 years, I'm not exaggerating. I had the idea for Unstuck and Unstoppable years ago. But like putting everything that I wanted, sidebar, here's another thing that us perfectionists do. We want to give everything away. It's like, I'm going to create an online course, but in that course, I want to teach you every single thing that I know and I've learned in my 44 years of life and in my 10 years of being a therapist and in my 20 years of being a leadership coach. Y'all, we don't have to fit everything in the program, but a perfectionist, the type A, high achieving, high performing, validation seeking queens like me, we want to give it all away. So I sat and it wasn't even procrastination because I started working on it. Okay. I have a process for how I create. I first get out a big landscape piece of paper and I throw all my ideas around the topic on the page, right? So like online course would be circled in the middle of my page and I would just brain dump what I would want to be in that course. Well, I would want to, do guided visualizations, and I would want to talk about getting unstuck from perfectionism, and I would want to talk about connecting to your inner CEO and dealing with fear and sabotage and all your protective parts. And I would want to talk about empathy and self-compassion. And I would want to talk about energy and how to tap in, right? So I put it all on paper and then I look for the themes and then I hand write out and then I take it all digital. That is usually my process. But when a perfectionist is trying to create something, okay, whether it's a training, a group, even just like an initiative amongst your team at work in your corporate gig, we can get stuck and paralyzed in like analysis paralysis. And so I sat on this course because I could not decide what to put in it, where to host it, how to get it out. What was my ratio of, teaching versus handouts and self exploration and self discovery? Like, y'all, I went round and around and around for 3 years. And the energy that I spent going around and around, if I would have just put something out, just one step to getting unstuck and unstoppable, and marketed it and shared it with you guys, I would have been in a different place. But instead, I was just straight up paralyzed by perfectionism. I wanted it to be just right. We also have this weird thing about like, it's my first one. It's my first one. And so I have to make this magnificent impression upon you all that are not even looking at me critically like I'm looking at myself. And so I added this extra dose of pressure because that's what us perfectionists do. We add the layer of pressure of, well, it's the first one, so I need to knock it out of the park. I need to make a great first impression. And so I sat and span and I wasted 3 years of energy. And you know what helped me? Besides the nervous system work, the getting still, my morning ritual date with the divine, all that, pouring the truth of what I wanted to teach into frickin' Chat GPT, who knows my personality, knows the brand, knows the mission, knows the message, knows the method, knows everything, knows how I tell it like it is. I poured my heart and soul into Chat GPT and it spit out, boom, here's your modules. Here's your exercises. And I was like, wow, the 3 years that I just spent investing in spinning, I could have just put this out there. Okay. So being paralyzed by perfectionism is costing us so much because we're not getting our work out into the world. And we're spending what I call our precious jewels, time, energy, and sanity on trying to perfect things, on editing things, on rethinking things, on going back to the drawing board, getting people's permission and getting people's validation. And it's like, dude, this is costing us time, energy, and sanity. So, what I want you to understand about perfectionism and why this paralyzation is so real is because perfectionism at its core is really just an attempt at being validated, being safe, and getting it right. It's a survival mechanism. Okay. Like, it's not just like, oh, it would just be kind of nice if I could get this right. It's like, I'm looking for approval that I'm on the right track. I'm looking for certainty. And perfectionism is an attempt to control your environment so that you can predict what's going to happen. So we're really just trying to avoid pain. We're trying to avoid rejection. We're trying to avoid looking bad, looking wrong, looking silly, looking stupid. And so we're going to sit here and edit it until the cows come home and try to control everything so that way it can be just right. But what is just right for me is different than what is just right for you. And what is beautiful for me is different for what's beautiful for you. And what's life changing for me is different. So it's a moving target. It's a never ending story. Okay. And so I want you to have some compassion for yourself here because it's like the reason we're sitting and spinning is because we want to get it right, because we want the clarity, we want the certainty, we want the sense of control, because we just want to belong. We just want to fit in. We just need it to be enough so we're safe and secure. And so when your nervous system and your brain is trying to keep you safe, putting your voice out into the world is vulnerable. So, of course, your protective parts are going to want it to be perfect. Of course, your anxious parts are going to have you sit and spin. Of course, your protective parts are like, nah, that's not good enough. Try again. It needs to be bigger. It needs to be brighter. Oh, is all of it making sense? Is it cohesive? Do I sound smart? Am I using the right vocab? Are people going to be inspired? What are people going to think? What should I wear when I'm doing it? You guys get what I mean, right? You get what I mean. It's endless. But there's always a good reason why us silly little humans do the silly things we do. We're paralyzed by perfectionism because our brains and our nervous systems have identified the threat of putting ourselves out there. And so it's going to sabotage us because it wants us to get it just right. So, what are some things that we can do to overcome this little phenomenon that happens for us perfectionists? Number one, we need to redefine success. Which, if you came to my Audacity masterclass at the beginning of this year, I'm like, we are already redefining success. Success does not equal perfection. Success is a feeling of fulfillment, of contribution, of contentment, of joy. And sometimes to get to that, we have to try and try again. We have to fail forward. And so success isn't perfection. Done is success. Growth is success. Starting is success. Authentic is success. So I really want you to play with number one, what is my idea of success? And what is the correlation I have between perfection and success? And how can I redefine success? Right? Like done is better than perfect. Progress over perfection. Get your work out there. Everybody started somewhere, you guys. Everybody started somewhere. You know, on Facebook, how it like pops up your memories? I'll get like the first video that I ever went live on Facebook and it'll pop up. And I'm like, wowzers, look at that cute little nugget trying to share her message. And like, I could critique her all day long until the cows come home. But what I do instead is I honor that woman who had the courage to show up, to start, and to do it messy. And it wasn't perfect. And it wasn't what I know now, right? It was an expression of who I was at that point in my career and what I knew then. And I'm so proud of that girl for doing the darn thing, because over the 7 years, have I gotten clarity on my message? Have I grown in my speaking ability? Have I grown in my knowledge and experience and expertise? Have I grown in my confidence and charisma? Absolutely. But you got to start somewhere. So that is step number one to the solution is redefine success. Okay. Let's aim for done. Let's aim for effective, and let's aim for authentic, and let yourself be where you are in your journey. Listen, people are starved for real in today's society. We want what's real. We want what's relatable. We want vulnerability. Like, I want to see someone like growing, not just their end result when it's all edited and groomed and filtered and perfect. People want to see your story and they want to see your evolution. Okay, bring people along for that ride. Don't worry about getting it just right. Include them in your journey. And I promise you, you're going to create like a die-hard community that is so bought into you and your leadership and your energy and your mission because you're demonstrating what's real and what's like relevant for you in the moment. And they get to grow with you, alongside of you, shoulder to shoulder. And there is something so comforting and intimate about that. People are starved for intimacy. We don't want to see any more fake stuff on social media. We don't want to see how to make $1 million in 2 minutes. We don't want to see why everything in your marriage is perfect and everything is that. We want to see each other's like thrive and be successful, but like in the real way. I hope that makes sense. So that's number one, is redefine success. Number two, I already said, take messy action. Just get started, you guys. Now, with that, you got to regulate your nervous system. So you can go back, and I have a ton of episodes, a ton of trainings, all the tools that you could ever need to regulate your nervous system. You want to breathe. You want to be in nature. You want to meditate or do breath work, tapping, brain spotting, journaling, dancing, plunking, tapping, bilateral music. But we want to basically let our nervous system know we're going to do something scary. We're going to put ourselves out there. We're going to show up for our dreams. We're going to take a risk. And anytime that we do that, we have to know that fear is going to come online. Your protective part is going to come online, or what parts? I have multiple protective parts. And so while we have the courage and the audacity to show up, we also want to regulate our nervous system and take care of our body and say, you know what? We're doing a scary thing, but that's what it takes to help a lot of people. We get to show up messy. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody is criticizing you as much as you're criticizing you. And what I think a lot of people do is they're like, all right, either they don't do anything at all because they're frozen and they're stuck and they're paralyzed by perfection, or they tap into that well of courage and bravery and audacity and they just put themselves out there. And if they don't titrate that with regulating their nervous system, then it's, number one, very hard to be an energetic match for the success, the wealth, the abundance, the love, the joy, all the things that you want. And number two, it's going to be hard for you to receive it, hold it, and give it back if you haven't grown your capacity to hold what's going to come for you when you do start showing up. So I really believe it's like, let's tap into our courage and our audacity and show up messy. And let's double down on regulating our nervous system to let our body know, yep, we're doing something new. We're doing something scary, but we're not going to die. It's okay. We're all right. We can do hard things. So show up messy, make the post, release the blog, start your podcast, do it messy, and then regulate your nervous system because, again, fear is going to show up on the scene. Number 3, trust yourself. Hear me when I say this. You are a magnificent being. You are here on earth at this time on purpose. There was a 1 in 400 trillion dollar chance that you were going to be born, and you were born. That's how I know that you're a miracle. That's how I know that you are worthy. That's how I know that you have something gorgeous to offer the community, your business, your clients, your family, whatever it is. You already have what it takes. You have an infinite well of wisdom inside of you. You have access to your intuition and to the divine of your own understanding. You have the courage, you have the stamina, you have the talent, you have the gifts, you have the creativity. You already have it all. You just buried it and forgot. And so sometimes getting unstuck is about shedding the shoulds and healing the layers of protection that you built on top of yourself that are dimming your light and dampening your gifts. But you have what it takes, and you got to trust it. It's like, I have enough right now to show up as is, to be of service. I know enough right now to help one person today. I have enough confidence to say one thing today. I have enough expertise to share one tidbit today. Because let's be honest, if we have enough to help one person, that is incredible. So you got to trust yourself. You got to trust your gifts. You got to know that you have enough as is. And you got to trust that like things are unfolding as they are supposed to, right? You haven't hit the success that you want yet because you got to grow your capacity. You got to grow your container to hold. You got to grow in your emotional intelligence. You got to grow in your leadership. You haven't had millions of eyeballs on you because you didn't have a nervous system that was ready to handle it. You don't have a million clients because you didn't have a nervous system that was ready to handle that kind of scheduling and that kind of energy coming at you. There's a reason for everything. Trust it. But if you can trust in yourself and keep showing up messy, ooh, girl, you will get so much further than trying to wait until you're ready and to perfect things before you go. So you got to trust yourself. You have what it takes. You have enough experience. You have enough lived experience. You have enough magic to share. So start sharing it. It is our duty to share our gifts in small ways, one by one. But it does take a level of courage just to start to share your gifts, doesn't it? So trust yourself. So number 1 was redefine success. Number 2 was take messy action. Number 3 was trust yourself. And number 4 is probably my favorite, which is just embracing imperfection as growth. You guys have heard me say this a million times. When I see people putting themselves out there, I am not focused on how perfect their content is, how perfect their brand is, how perfect their offer is, how perfect their style is, how perfect their outfit is. I'm like, you're in the arena. Good for freaking you. You're going to show up and you're going to fumble, but you're in the arena. And I bow down and honor and respect the individuals that are in the arena. I don't bow down and respect and honor the individuals that are on the outskirts looking in, judging people. If you're here to play, and I know you are, if you're playing to win, and I know you are, if you are a woman who has a big mission on her heart, and I know you do, you got to get your butt in the arena. And to be in the arena means that you're going to get a little wounded. You're going to have some war wounds. You're going to get rejected. You're going to get judged. People are going to misunderstand you. You're going to invest in something that doesn't give you the ROI that you wanted. You're going to launch something that doesn't give you the result that you desired. But you have to see all of that as essential to your growth and evolution to where you want to go. We got to kiss a lot of frogs before we find the prince in life and in business. You're never going to get the formula to success. Do A, B, and C for this result. And anybody that is promising you that is a crock of shit, because your road to success is as unique as you are. It's as limited edition as your fingerprint. And so we do have to fuck around and find out, right? But when I make a mistake, I see it as I'm one step closer to where I want to be. When I rule something out because it wasn't the right thing for me, whether it's the right offer, the right messaging, the right investment, I know that I'm one step closer to the right messaging, the right investment. When a client leaves, it makes space for another client to come through. When I get turned down for this gig, something bigger is on the way. It's like every door closing means another bigger, better door is opening. This is how I want you to see imperfection. If you're doing it imperfectly, it's getting you closer to where you want to be. It's like everything. You have heard me say this too. Everything is a lesson or a blessing. I'm either showing up and getting the results I want, or I'm showing up and I'm getting, denied and therefore closer to the results I want. If I choose to see my failures as a lesson, then everything is productive. And I believe everything is divinely timed and orchestrated anyway. So if my imperfection teaches me something about myself, I'm one step closer, baby. So why is it that when we make a mistake, we see it as this just devastating failure that then feeds this disempowering story that we weren't good enough in the first place, or that we don't have what it takes, or that we'll never be one of the successful ones, or that good things just don't tend to happen to people like us? Okay. One of the things that I'm recording for Social Goats right now is identity training. We have got to look at our lived experiences and write an empowering story about how we made it to this point and what life has taught us. And because of that, we're ready to serve. We're ready to be a therapist. We're ready to be a coach. We're ready to be a mom. We're ready to be a teacher. We're ready to be a whatever. And that empowering story is our identity. And that identity decides how we show up in our life. But when I look at my life timeline, this is an exercise that I take clients through to write their empowering story, to create their empowering identity. The hardest things that I've been through were the things that taught me the most. And the things that taught me the most were the things that catapulted my growth. And so that's why I think we have to change how we perceive failure. We have to redefine success. Everything is a lesson or a blessing, because if you're learning a lesson, it's getting you closer to whatever the thing is that you want. So let's summarize. You might be experiencing paralysis because of perfectionism, because you have a deep desire to get it right. You have a deep desire to be loved, to be socially accepted, to be worthy. You're putting your worthiness in external validating forces. And we are no longer subscribing to that here in the unperfected movement. Okay. When we're trying so hard to get it right, we are literally putting ourselves into a cognitive freeze and a nervous system shutdown. So when you feel like you cannot take a step forward, or you're sitting and spinning on the hamster wheel for days or weeks or months, or even in my case with Unstuck and Unstoppable, 3 flippin' years, it's for good reason. And how we get unstuck so that we can become unstoppable are the 4 tips that I gave you guys today. Redefine success, take messy action while regulating your nervous system, trust yourself, and embrace imperfection as growth. And do everything in small doses, right? The high achiever in you wants to shoot for the stars. And I freaking love that about you. I am obsessed with that about you. But sometimes we dream so big that we immediately paralyze ourselves, because we have this mechanism in our brain that is always measuring effort for outcome. And our brain is like, yeah, sis, that's not possible. At least not tonight, at least not in Q2 of 2025. So sit down and let me paralyze you. And so while I think it's so critical to have a big vision and to have an even more powerful why, we have to break things down into baby steps. Otherwise, we overwhelm our system and we get paralyzed. And then what do we do when we get paralyzed and we don't get to the finish line? We shame ourselves and we further perpetuate the whole cycle. We shame ourselves and then we try to double down on the perfection. And we're just going to try harder and go faster and go bigger and go bolder until what? Until we crash and burn, and then we shame ourselves. And so this is your invitation, my love, to get off that hamster wheel, to remember just how extraordinary you are and that you have enough. You have what it takes. You're here on purpose and for a reason, and to start taking baby, messy action, and to take such juicy, good care of yourself along the way. We got to enjoy this journey, my friends. Whatever you're redefining as success, whether it is having a 6-figure business or a 7-figure business, or having a boat or traveling the world or having time freedom or getting out of debt, whatever your goal is, if we're not enjoying the ride, we are not going to become an energetic match for what we desire. You have to find a way to enjoy where you're at now. Where you're at now is amazing. Take a minute to think about this for just a minute. Where you are now, you used to dream about before. Whether it is because you're married or divorced, you've graduated college, you have a career, you started your business and now you want to scale it, you had your family, you bought the house or you rented the apartment, you're driving the car that isn't a total POS like you used to in college or shit in your early 20s. You have a guitar. You have a podcast studio. You get to go on retreats with women. You get to go to therapy and make yourself better. Like, when was the last time that you just paused and reflected on how far you've come? And how some of the things that are in your life at this very moment were things that you used to dream about when you were a little girl, or that you used to put on your manifestation list, or you used to put on your vision board. the more that you can sit and amplify the gratitude of where you are now, and not just what you have, but who you are. Like, you are a more evolved bee at the end of this conversation than you were at the beginning of this conversation. You're more evolved this year over last year. Think about what you knew and how you showed up 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I was the messiest bee this side of the Mississippi. When I look at the woman that I am today, even though I'm still messy, even though I'm still imperfect, even though I have struggles just like you and everyone else on this planet, I am so proud of the woman that I'm becoming because I am more conscious than I was a year ago and 5 years ago and 10 years ago. I handle things better. I show up for my life. I advocate for myself. I believe in my mission. Like, those are the things that I want you to celebrate and celebrate more and compound the feeling, like the good feelings around that as you take the baby steps. That's the secret to success, is that you get to grow and evolve over a lifetime. And when you can enjoy that ride, you become a magnet for what you desire. So if I can appreciate the clients that I have now, which I do, I get more clients. When I can appreciate the people that are listening to the podcast, it motivates me to put out more podcasts. When I can appreciate the kids that I have now, our relationships strengthen. When I can appreciate the home that I have now, when I can appreciate the ideas that I have now, everything compounds, because when you're in a state of appreciation, you resonate with more of what you desire. What you focus on expands, guys. So if all you're doing is wasting your time, A, perfecting your work, and then B, wishing you were further along, you're going to manifest more of those feelings. You're going to experience more of those feelings. What you focus on grows. So if you focus on how far behind you are and how not enough you are, that's literally what you're going to experience in your lived reality. But instead, if you focus on how amazing you already are, how much you've grown, how much you've learned, how much you have, who you're becoming, and you feel grateful for what's here now, well, number one, it just feels good to be in gratitude, and that's going to motivate you to show up to do the thing that I'm suggesting that you do messy. And then number two, energetically, you're going to become a magnet for what you desire. Blessings on blessings on blessings, homie. That's the money move for 2025. So that's my message for today, my loves. We have a new freebie, which is a perfectionism quiz. So you can see how affected are you by some of these things that we're talking about today? How bad is the perfectionism? So that you can also figure out your area of focus, whether it is procrastination, whether it is self-worth, whatever it is that's going to help you truly get unstuck. So you can start showing up and showing up consistently and showing up messy so you can become unstoppable. Make sure that you grab that quiz. The link is going to be in the show notes. Also, make sure you're following along for the social goats, because I'm putting identity training in there. I'm putting energetics training in there. I'm putting so much content in there right now that is going to help you on your unperfected journey of healing, revealing, and rising. So just make sure that you guys are grabbing all the free tools, all the affordable tools, all of the extraordinary tools that are going to support you, because it is my mission to raise the consciousness of this planet one mama at a time. If you made it to this point of the podcast, I love you so much. Thank you for showing up for you. Thank you for showing up for us. And thank you for showing up for each other. I will see you all same time, same place next week. Bye for now. Hey, babe, if you made it to this part of the show, I am so freaking happy for you. That means that you are dead serious about healing, revealing, and rising. And just by showing up for yourself in this way, you are sending a beautiful message to yourself and to the universe that you matter, that you are ready for more. And so don't be surprised if things start to flow your way. I would so appreciate it if you would rate and review the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The more reviews that we have, the more that it gets into the heads and hearts of more high-achieving, high-performing working mamas. Also, we love to get your feedback, so share with us what's landing. You can either DM me on Instagram, I'm at Brooke Jean Unperfected, or you can share a clip that really landed and tag me in it. I want this to be the most extraordinary co-creation where we are in this together, seeing what is possible for women worldwide. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourselves and therefore each other.